Hey everybody, welcome back to the Style Modified YouTube channel. My name is Andrew Garza, I300 Garza on Instagram, and today we're going to be continue working on this 4runner. So you'll see this in a different video, but we just got it wired up. I showed everybody how to do the NAT mod with the twin turbo ECU. So we got the harness all wrapped up, and we're going to get the engine in the car, and we're going to do everything around that, and then the wiring and all that. It's going to be a separate video on how we're going to wire into the car and stuff like that. So I think everything involving wiring will make one video, and then putting the engine in the car and stuff like that will make its own video. That way I can keep it kind of organized, so if people want to do this to their rig, they can figure out how I did it like in order, and they can do it themselves. Let's get out there. So I've been kind of thrashing, I'm not going to lie. The garage is an absolute mess. This has been my workshop for the past couple days. I would say the past couple weeks, but in the past couple days I've been moving 100 miles an hour because I've been trying to get this thing done. So you guys can see, recently got the wiring all pretty much done. I got the forward facing intake manifold, so I had to move the TPS wires. I had to move the idle air control valve wires. Let's see, I deleted all the wires you don't need. So as you can see, that big bundle of wires over there, that was all out of this harness. This had a lot of BS that you don't need. So made it real simple. Over here we just got the alternator plug and the distributor plug, and then over here we got intake air temperature, IAT. So we have this is like a GM style Delphi plug, so we got to get a Delphi IAT. So I did have a brand new one over here, but I do not have a bung for this, and I should probably get a bung for this, but I think I'm just gonna order one that fits for now, because I don't think this is the best place to put it. I think I'm gonna order one that fits in one of these holes, because that's, I don't know, these are all MPT fittings. So these three are 1/8, and then this one is, I don't know, like 5/16 or something. And that sensor over there is 3/8. So either we buy a 3/8 aluminum bung, welded in our intercoil piping right here, or we get a 1/8 MPT one and we just thread it right in here, and that would be good enough. And our plug is definitely long enough to reach. We got that. So since we converted this from MAF to MAP, so MAP basically just takes the MAF wires, and this takes a MAP signal, and then the intake air temp. Last night I went ahead and got the clutch bolted on. This is a Clutch Masters clutch. I think it's like a stage 2. It's a 6-puck. It's got a factory style heavy ass flywheel. Went ahead and got some 440cc injectors on this bad boy. I had to kind of hodgepodge some O-rings together, but hopefully that should be good. I got the adapters, good there. Last night I just bolted the turbo manifold on. Everything's good there. Now I was having issues with this freaking turbo because one of the holes you can't get a bolt in. So the way that works on the Cummins trucks is 2 bolts come in this way, and then 2 bolts go from the back side of the manifold in this way. So we got to figure that out. I got my extended drain on there because it would have been a pain. Last night I also had to fab up this. Not really fab, but I shared a bolt with the idle air control valve. I put a longer bolt in there, put a nut on the back side, and then I put this little bracket that I kind of fabbed up because we need some way to mount the dipstick. So we're good on that. We got that mounted up. Brand new oil pan, brand new drain plug, just resealed that. Hopefully it's good. I've never done it before. I put the air conditioning compressor back on. I put the power steering pump back on. So now I got to figure out fittings for that. So I'm going to do that in the background, but once we get the turbo on and everything like that, we're going to pull the intake manifold off, put the O-rings in, put that back on. Then we can finally think about getting it dropped in that sucker. Oh, I got to make an oil drain line too. So I'm going to mount the turbo, make the drain line, O-rings, and then that's it. Ready. Enough talking. Let's get to work. Okay, after some fighting, we ended up getting this turbo on. As you can see, the bolt right here, there's no way to get a bolt in there, so I had to use a stud, and then the only nut I had was like a freaking lock nut, but you had to basically hold the turbo while you barely had the thread sticking out, and you had to thread it on little by little. It was a pain, I'm not gonna lie. It took me like half an hour. We got that in, we got our O2 sensor in, we have our oil line. It's on here, but it's not on there. I'm still waiting for a fitting. Didn't even realize that I'm gonna have to take the AC compressor back off to get that fitting in. There's a stock oil pressure sensor in the side of the block, and I believe it's like a BTSP thread, so I had to get a BTSP to -4, which was kind of a pain to find, but it's coming. It's coming in the mail. It's almost here. I don't think I'm gonna get it in today because I have work. I have to go to work in like an hour, but it's looking pretty promising for tomorrow. Tomorrow, a lot of the stuff that I ordered comes in the mail. I'm trying to think ahead of time what I might need, because right here we have a power steering box, and our power steering pump's gonna be like, I don't know, right here, and we're gonna need to get the lines from here to here, and then we're gonna need to get an external reservoir. We're gonna mount it over here. Luckily I got one of those. See, the good thing about being a Jay-Z guy, like, you just end up hoarding a lot of parts over the years. Like, say you buy something for a project, you don't end up using it. What you do is you put it on this here shelf. Power steering reservoir, power steering, and there it is. It's a good temporary solution. It's not going to really be permanent, but look, it's already got bolt holes. So it's meant to mount in a corner, but we'll probably cut this tab off, and shit, should be just about ready to go. Clean it up. I think this came out of, I don't know, I got out of some old Toyota in a junkyard. Okay, we're gonna get the turbo reclocked, and then we're just gonna go over a few things I got from Amazon. Now, this is all cheap shit, so I don't really expect it to last long, but it's next day and it gets you going. I've had some of these Evil Energy fittings on my Lexus for over a couple years now. And then we got this China dash 10 all wrapped in tape. I need to cut that open. And then what we got, I just had to break down and buy these. They weren't that expensive. Aluminum AN wrenches. So it helps a lot tightening your fittings so you don't fuck your shit up. It makes you look more professional. So we're gonna get this together real quick. And here we go, complete. When I was doing this return, I noticed it was really close to my motor mount. Now my motor mount is gonna be like out here somewhere, right? But it might be kind of slid over this way. So it's kind of like under it, and it needs to go right here. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to snake it around and go up this way. Made this mount a little long, so that way, the cool thing about AN lines is as long as you put it on in a certain orientation, you can have it hold a bend. What's this? So if I were to twist it like that and put it on, it would bend that way. So if I were to do this, and then it could be out of the way of our motor mount, because you don't want it rubbing. If it's rubbing, then it's just eventually it's gonna tear. But now that I'm kind of looking at it, it looks a little too long. So you want your oil return to be like a ramp, right? So if it goes down here and then at 90s and then it's a straight line, it's really not good enough because oil can pool up in here. You want it, basically this would be better if it had like a 45 on it down here. So that way it pointed that way. That way we could just shoot up like this. So I made this long on purpose. That way I could pull this AN fitting off and cut it again. So maybe we'll order a dash 1045. That way we could stay out of the way of this. And then we can make this even shorter. We could just go from here straight down like that and make it real short. And since we have an internal wastegate on this turbo, I don't know if I mentioned that, have an internal wastegate, we're gonna try it because this is a diesel turbo. Diesel turbos make like 20 pounds stock. I don't even want 20 pounds, I want like 10. So I don't even know if I can get this to go to 10, but I guess we'll find out, I guess. So we're gonna figure that out. Worst comes to worst, what we do is we just take this off, freaking basically weld that closed, and then we put an external here, which I was gonna do. Right now what I did is I ordered a delete cap. So it's just gonna be a cap and it's gonna V-band on just like the normal external wastegate. But I think for the first start, I'm gonna leave this off in case it wants to shoot any metal or debris that may have gotten in there. That way it doesn't go through the turbo. So we'll probably do that. Clutch is good. I got the throwout bearing and everything on. New rear main, new pilot bearing. This build is getting way freaking more in depth than I wanted it to be, but that's okay. So another good thing about having a parts warehouse is if you need an alternator, you check here for spares, and what do you know? We got an alternator. Well, another thing I noticed is, since this is non-VVTi motor, they have different alternator plugs, but it's still a 3-pin. There's still 3 wires. So you know what that means? We just go over to this trashed 1J harness I've been stealing stuff from. We go to where the alternator should be. Looks like it. Plug's in good shape. Broken connector, but whatever. Yep, that's it. So we'll just cut that off and add that on, and we'll order a new one so we can have a working clip, even though it doesn't really matter, but sweet. One last thing we need to do to this sucker before we get it out and try shoving it in the 4runner. So this part is, I wouldn't say specific to a JZ, but JZs use BTSP like threads, so that's like, it's close to MPT, but it's not. So you can't thread an MPT fitting in there without fucking something up. But you can run a MPT tap through a BPST fitting and make it NPT, but I just figured I don't want to be tapping oil galleries and stuff like that, so I went ahead and I just found this. So it's a 1/8 BPST to -4. So as you see, our oil line comes from our turbo. We're probably going to stash it under the cover right here, and then it's long enough to go down all the way. I don't know if you could see where my finger is pointing, but it's all the way down there. Oh my god, that spider web is so sticky. So basically what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take the AC compressor back off. I have to go grab a pulley off a spare engine because I don't have one. We'll put the pulley on. We'll grab a random we have used serpentine belts for 2Js lying around everywhere. So we'll grab a serpentine belt, we'll throw that on, we'll get it in the car, we'll run the wire harness and stuff like that. Basically, today's a big day. Okay, I pulled that shiny intake off because I don't want to scratch it. Got the throwout bearing on, I got everything greased, I got the splines greased. I made sure the pilot bearing slides on the splined area right there. I guess it's the input shaft or the output shaft of the transmission. No, it's the input. It's the input shaft. Yeah. So we're gonna try to get that stabbed on there, and once we do that, we're gonna go ahead and try to get the motor mounts on there. I'm ready to roll, guys. This thing, it's as ready as it's ever been. It's time. I've been waiting a long time for this. You know, one of the hardest things that you could do as a car guy is put a goddamn engine in by yourself. It is so challenging. And on top of that, like, this thing is so high, and then on top of that, the engine bay was so small that I couldn't get the engine and the clutch in. It just wouldn't fit, so I had to throw this leveler on, put the engine like this, kind of scoop it in, and then look what I'm doing here. I just fucking started trashing the condenser. Now, obviously, I'll probably get a new one before I start getting AC working, but like, this fit is so tight, it's not even funny. So now we only got 2 bolts in the trans, but after all that's in, I'll jack the engine up, I'll swing the mounts back out, we'll bolt the engine up and get it in its final place. And then we'll start putting everything back on, we'll start running the harness, stuff like that. Okay, so now that the engine's in and the harness is pretty much ran, I want to explain what I want to do. Before I put the intake back in, I'm just in case I got to open the harness up again and check it out, I'm not really sure. So we ran it, everything as clean as we could, around here, up here, through here, ran it into the car. Now, in this video, I don't think I'm going to be explaining how to do the wire harness. I'm making a whole separate video because I built the whole harness pretty much in the garage. So, but I'll show you what I got going on here. I have all this wiring, and now I made it really easy. These are the 2 plugs that come with the 4runner right here. I labeled everything that I could so far: coils, ignition, circuit opening, relay, battery, check engine light, pretty much everything you need for this sucker to run. And now when I built the harness, I went ahead and routed, because a lot of the wires plugged in the engine bay and stuff like that, I deleted all that. I ran everything inside. So it looks a little sloppy right now because I left all the factory plugs because I have tape all over them. But I'm gonna consolidate this all probably into this gray plug, because this is the main plug for the engine. It has all the important stuff, you know, the injectors, the coil packs, and the ignition and the starter and stuff like that. So basically we're gonna be wiring most of this straight to this, and that should get us running. But you know, the dash, the tachometer and stuff like that, they're on a couple of other plugs right here. Here's the starter. So now it's just like for like, you know, wire for wire. I wired them the same way. I converted this to wasted spark, which is the VVTi coil pack. So I have all that stuff right here. And this is one of the ECU plugs. So this has all of the ECU powers and stuff like that on there, air conditioning, stuff like that. So we're pretty much ready to roll. I'm gonna wire this sucker up, and in this video, I will probably start the engine and stuff like that, but in this video, it's mostly getting the engine in the car, getting everything kind of situated, and you know, maybe taking the next steps, running intercooler piping, stuff like that, because I'm trying to make all these videos like have one specific task that we accomplish. So the engine's in, it's looking good, and there's a couple more things I had to wire, like for example, I'm using like a newer style alternator, so the plug is different. So I went ahead and got that plug. I just got to wire those 3 wires up, stuff like that. But pretty much everything else is ready to roll. I'm gonna connect the crank first, because if this engine doesn't have oil pressure, there's no point of even doing anything. So I got oil in the engine. I'm gonna connect the crank. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the oil line off of the turbo, stick it in a water bottle, and crank this sucker until I see oil pressure. Now, once that's good, then I know the engine will crank. It's not seized or anything. Obviously I've already spun it by hand, but all the internals are still okay. I want to make sure it sounds like it has compression and stuff like that. I can't get the intake on because there's this freaking little thing right here. The fuel rail ORB fitting to AN6 hits the firewall right here, and I'm like, of course it hits the freaking firewall. I just need a 1/2 an inch, and the motor's not even pushed back as far as it can go. So it looks like this is where the motor's gonna rest. We're gonna have to get this off somehow, and we're gonna start tackling that right now. So what I got here, if you guys don't know what this is a spot weld drill bit. So what you do is you center punch the middle of a spot weld. You can see one right here, and there's one right here. You center punch the middle with a punch. That will give your guide somewhere to sit. And what it does is it drills around the spot weld drill bit, so you can essentially leave the spot weld with the car and take off whatever you're trying to take off, for example, this plate. So I'm gonna get that off, and then there's a section right here where the fitting fits. I'm gonna hammer that in. The only thing is you can't hammer too much, because these 2 bolts right here are the throttle pedal. So if you hammer it too much, you're gonna essentially fuck up the throttle pedal on the inside and cock it left or right, and then you're gonna mess it up because it won't be able to do its full throw. You know what I mean? So okay, back out here getting it going. So there's a few things we need to do to get this thing obviously running, but and that's like the creature comforts and stuff like that. So heater core needs to get plumbed in. We also need to plumb that. Goes hand in hand with the cooling system. We got our into the radiator out of the motor, and then out of the radiator into the motor. We got our radiator right here. I got some 2JZ lines. I don't know how well they're gonna work. I got a bunch of spare lines over here, heater core lines, 5/8, 3/4, stuff like that. So this is what needs to happen. We gotta do the alternator, right? That's a power wire to the battery, and we gotta wire in that plug. As you can see, I haven't done that yet. Power steering. As you see, I got the steering box right there. I got some generic Toyota reservoir right here. I'm probably just gonna mount it somewhere over here. Here's a couple parts that I have collected over the past, I don't know, couple days maybe. We've got some power steering line right here. Power steering rated. This is going to be for low pressure. These fittings I also got off of Amazon. This is M16 by 1.5 on the bottom side, and then we got AN6 on the top. So we basically just take these, we thread one of them right into the steering box. I know it's kind of hard to see, guys. And then we thread one of them right into the high pressure side of the power steering pump. High pressure, I got dash 6 PTFE. Came with this little kit. It's pretty cheap. It was like 30 bucks or something. And then the stock fitting on the pump was totally wrong. It came like this and it went up. So I would have to put a line like over the intake manifold and look stupid. So Powerhouse Racing comes out with this freaking badass fitting. Basically, it's double O-ringed, and you take that and you press it right in there, and it allows you to rotate it however far you want. And then you put that little retaining pin in there. That'll give you dash 10. I got dash 10 to 5/8 barb, and then that 5/8 barb is going to stab right into this line, right? So there's a fitting, a special fitting. Of course, everything's a special fitting. Special fitting goes in right there. I'm actually ordering it. An easy place to get it is from Trail Gear. They have these things, so it should be coming in the mail. So that top left fitting will go here, and then this will go here. So we're gonna have a really short power steering system. What does that mean? A, yeah, ease of installation, but B, we're gonna have higher temps, power steering temps, right? Because our capacity is little to nothing. We're gonna have barely any power steering fluid in there because the steering box is right here and the pump's right here. So it's just gonna be like this in a circle. No power steering cooler or anything like that, but we're gonna plumb it in the future, just not right now. What I did was I found what fittings would work the best. So we're gonna put a 45 on the pump side, and then we're gonna put a 90 on the steering box side. The reason why we're gonna do that is because it's too close to just go straight down. So what we gotta do is we're gonna point them both this way, as you can see that one, and we're just gonna do a little loop like that, boop, little loop. And then as you can see, I got this badass Powerhouse Racing fitting on there. You see how you could rotate it wherever you want. We had the intake in there just to make sure that this wasn't gonna interfere with it. So what we gotta do is we gotta loop down, and then as soon as we get to where the body is, we can come up. So wherever we decide to mount that, we'll cut that and freaking hose clamp it on there. Then I'm gonna go ahead and cut that PTFE line, and to show you kind of what I did to get that on. Then we're waiting for this fitting in the mail. Pretty simple for the power steering, luckily. Now all we have to do is basically make everything, get it all fitted, and then we can start working on the fuel system. Okay, so that's how these bad boys work. So you find out where you want your cut line. What I did was I wrapped a piece of tape around where I wanted to cut, and I cut right in the middle of that piece of tape. You see there's the PTFE lining, and then it has braided, and then it's like soft braid. So what you got to do is, while the tape's still on there, go ahead and slide this piece over. Then there's this piece, I don't know what they call it, like a fitting, some type of ferrule or whatever. See how it's skinny on one side? It needs to go, this is kind of tough. It needs to go between the plastic and the metal, like the mesh, the part of like the AN mesh. Once you do that, once you get it in far enough, then it's just like an AN fitting. You take that, you pop it in there, and then you tighten them together. So I already did one side just so I could put it in there, figure out my length, and then I cut it, and I'm gonna do the other side. If you want your lines to look clean, it's better to get AN wrenches, because a lot of AN shit's aluminum, and these wrenches I'm pretty sure are aluminum, so you're not gonna mess them up, and they grip more than like your average crescent wrench. So it's gonna twist that up. Now we can go ahead and throw these on. The good thing about these is you can still move them. They're still somewhat adjustable. And the good thing about this is it's got a natural bend to it because it came in a roll, and that's exactly what I'm gonna need it to do. So we're gonna get that on. We got our high pressures done, and now we have to worry about our low pressures. So this is a piece of cake. To the reservoir, to the reservoir. Now, the only thing is I don't have line for this. Well, I do have a line, but not power steering line. So I gotta go to the store and get some. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this out, go to the store and say, hey, I need a power steering line this size. I don't know what size it is, maybe 3/8, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna go ahead and call the power steering system pretty much done. Oh, I also ordered these M16 by 1.5 copper washers. I didn't know if I needed them, but I just threw them on the high pressure side anyways. So up next, we are going to work on the fuel system. So I've been having an issue getting this fitting in the back to clear, so I had to order. Well, this is what was originally on there. This is a ORB-8 to a -6 AN, and this I had to order this special fitting ORB-8 to high clearance -6 swivel because it sat so close to my firewall that I couldn't even get a line on there. So you see what I did here? I still had to do some massaging. I went ahead and spot weld drilled this little bracket off. Didn't know what it was for, didn't need it. Went ahead and smashed the shit out of this thing with a freaking 2-pound hammer, and we got it to clear. Now we can run our fuel system. Now check this out. These right here, one right here, and there's a couple down there, are all lines coming straight from the tank. So I was like, okay, we'll just use those. We just have to be careful because the exhaust is going to be right there. Now, the issue we were having is, went ahead, popped open the back seat. I don't think this is supposed to be cut out, but the previous owner cut it out so we can access the tank. Now the issue with this is, this came out a fucking rusty, gooey mess. Here's the old pump. I don't even want to touch it. That's how nasty it is. This thing was all rusted out. I spent about an hour cleaning it with the wire wheel. She's looking good. She's just about ready to be put back in service, but we ran into an issue. As soon as I bought this vehicle, I smelled the bad gas. You could just smell it, you know? And this is what had happened. That fuel pump hanger was so corroded, and I cleaned it and I was like, oh, we're good. Well, no, we're not good. Look at the tank. The whole inside of the tank is rusted out. Now, could I pull this out and clean it? Yes, but there's a lot of like flaking rust on there. So I don't want to risk that getting in my fuel system, in my injectors, because it's gonna be a bad time. So I've been looking on OfferUp, I've been looking on Marketplace, messaging people saying, hey, I need a fuel tank. Mind you, this car needs to be running and driving in 3 days. Will it? At this point, probably not, but I'm gonna try, because I don't want to say that I didn't try, because I've been trying. We've been thrashing on this thing. So yeah. Oh yeah, and I got this K&N filter. Shout out Jason Kim. Clears my distributor. Only thing is, I might have a little issue right here with this this piece that's supposed to go in here. So we'll worry about that later. Not a big deal. So now, since the fuel system is kind of on standby, I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next best thing, and that is cleaning everything up. We gotta do the alternator. That's piece of cake. We're gonna repin that 3 wires. On the 4runner, it came with this. Now I'm assuming on the VZ motor that was in here, I'm assuming the alternator was over here. The alternator is actually over here, but check this out. If you look at my harness from an SC300, now mind you, this engine and the vehicle and this 4runner are practically the same year. So as you can see, a lot of the electronics in here are the same. Look, it's the same exact plug. Pretty much the wires are just about almost the same color too. But I'm gonna cut it up, run it all the way over here, splice it into our new plug, since we are running a newer VVTi alternator. Same thing, still 3 pins, just a different plug. So we're gonna have to wire that up, no big deal. Up next, clutch line. We do not have the slave cylinder. We got to go to the store. So I'm trying to wait to go to the store because I want to get everything at the same time. Now I need power steering line and a clutch slave. So I'm gonna come up with a little list. I'm just gonna keep going because I might need something else here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. We're gonna put the intake back on because now we got clearance for our fuel fitting. We'll put that on. I think what I'm gonna do is do a quick reset. We're gonna go ahead, clean everything up, get all the tools together, stuff like that. We're probably just gonna take the radiator, throw it in the car, and we're gonna tidy everything up because I got everything everywhere and it is slightly uncomforting. So I'm gonna do that. I'll catch you guys back in a minute. Man, this place is a freaking mess. I don't know where I left off last. I don't even know. But I'm just gonna tell you the things that I've done in the last 5 hours. So it's all easy stuff. Stuff that, you know, if you're building something like this, it's all custom stuff. So I'll just show you what I did. I went ahead and rigged up. Let me get a little light on this situation. I went ahead and rigged up this upper radiator hose because it was so hard to get one hose to do it. So I found a hose at the auto parts store and it was clocked differently, so I cut it in half and it's okay. As you can see, there's kind of like a small kink up top. I cut it multiple times. I didn't want to make it worse, so that's good enough. And then I used like a IS-100 lower hose for the radiator, and then back here are some custom stuff. Right here we got just a 90 Gates hose. I just got that, I don't know, it was freaking some universal Gates hose. It had a 90 on one end and then it was like 18 inches long. Then this I just had lying around, that blue hose. It goes from out of the head to the heater valve. So I now I have heat plumbed. It just sucks that it's freaking blue. I'm gonna have to wrap it with some tape or something. What else did we do? We're plumbing the fuel system right now. So let me show you what we got going on. So the stock tank was rusted. It was really bad. So I went ahead and got another one. And as you can see, I got everything open back here. I tried to put everything back the way it was. So the one closest to us is the feed. It goes down. And then that one over there is the return. So luckily, this 95 4runner already has a return system. So there's a line somewhere in the engine bay. So what we did was, since the fuel tank was rusted out, we didn't want to take any chances of having issues with the fuel line. So what I did was, can you see it? Yes, you, uh-oh, it's leaking. Damn it. Okay, well, I got a new fuel filter. Put that in. So now we're good. Now, what happens is, as you see right here, I got an AN line. This is where the outlet is. Kind of sucks because this is the exhaust side, but this is temporary. So I got a adapter from the OEM stuff to AN6. So I don't know what size that is. I just had it. So I got a straight AN6. Comes up around right here in the back. And then I got it going across the firewall. I did this on my 180 build. It worked fine. You just got to keep it away from the exhaust. And as you can see, it feeds the back of the rail over there. Had a hell of a time getting that fitting on. As you can see, kind of had to smash up the firewall. No big deal. So now we have, by the way, before I did that, I ran that line before I put it to the rail into the gas tank, and I flowed about a gallon through it, fired up the pump, and it didn't look rusty or anything like that. So it's saying either the lines are clean or the filter's doing its job, so that's good. So we landed the supply line. Now I just got this freaking Amazon fuel pressure regulator. I've actually ran one of these before, had good luck with it. So what I'm currently doing is, you see that fitting coming out side close to me. I just made a line that goes to the other side of the rail, and that line is right here. So now we have fuel up to the rail. We go through the rail, and now we can go to the fuel pressure regulator, and then out of the bottom is where we make our line that goes back to the tank. Now Sucks, like I said, sucks again. The lines are over here. So I don't know which one's which. There's a line right there. And I think there's one, yeah, right over here. One of those are the returns. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a line. I'm gonna follow this one across top of the firewall, land it back down, and our fuel system should be complete. I think that's pretty much it to do like a sketchy fire on the key. And then after that, shit, all we gotta do, wiring's just about done. Shit, all we gotta do is the intercool piping. I got this Mishimoto intercooler in the mail today. I took the grill off. I'm gonna put it right there, plumb it up how I want to, make sure it's not in the way of my winch release. And then after that, I'm gonna take the stock grill, basically cut the whole black part out of it and put it back on. And then that will be the center of my grill. We're almost ready for the first fire. So we gotta basically finish up the fuel system. As you see, there's a wastegate hole there. I bought a cap for that, but guess what? It doesn't fucking fit. It's supposed to be a cap for a 44 mil wastegate. Doesn't fit. So we might actually have to put our wastegate on, but yep, that's pretty much it. Wire isn't really cleaned up, but it's there. It's good enough to run. Another video, I got my dual case in, so as you can see I got 3 holes now. So the twin sticks go in the back, and then the low high is right there, and then our shifter's right there. Got the holes cut out. We just gotta bolt those back in, put some fluid in. I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap it up and come back to you guys when I'm at a good point. Well, impatient me was like, man, I want to hear this thing run. Kept trying to get it running, and as you can see, we have a fucking fuel leak right here. And yeah, my first fire ever. I would look down there, seen a freaking huge flame. See the freaking gas leaking out of right here. Now I'm kind of wondering how the hell that happened. So no more starting until we get that sucker 100% dialed. All right, let me put this into perspective. Today is Wednesday. Thanksgiving's tomorrow, and we leave, and I'm supposed to take this 4runner out to the desert on Friday. Now, probably unachievable, but we're gonna keep going. So what we got now is basically everything is done. There's a few small things we need to wrap up. We need to put the cap on that wastegate. We're currently working on cutting holes right here so we can get the intercooler pipe right here to the turbo, and then right here is a real short run, like an inch. We gotta put a tiny 45 there. Problem is we need to do a little bit more shaving so this pipe can kind of angle perfect. Same with this one, do a little more shaving. So we're waiting so we can make some noise. It's almost 9 o'clock. So we just checked the fuel system. So far so good, no leaks. I know you're really not supposed to put this this fuel tape on like fittings that are supposed to seal themselves, but it's old and I was having leaking issues, so I pulled it out. I cleaned everything up with some what's this called, some of that abrasive stuff. What's it called? Yeah, you're probably yelling at the screen right now. I'm drawing a blank. So basically in the car, what we got, everything works off of the key. The only thing that doesn't is this wire right here. This wire needs a ground to energize the EFI relay, and this ECU sends a power to energize the EFI relay. So we can always add in a reversing relay so that we can turn our power into a ground. We don't have time to do that. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna freaking basically put this on an eyelet, and we're gonna bolt it permanently, because it only turns on the hot side of the relay when the ignition is on, and then this is the negative. So so as long as the ignition is on, the fuel pump will be on, and I'm cool with that. So we're good there. All the ECU stuff we're just gonna leave right there for testing. I went ahead and got all the fluids in, all the shifters in. We're having a little issue with getting it into first gear. I think that's first. If you try hard enough, you just hit the e-brake. So I'm actually going to work on either A, getting a short shifter for this thing, which I don't know if they make. Look how much slop is in it. Or B, slotting the hinges and pivoting that over ever so slightly like this in the front, so that way we'll have more room to get to first. But there's neutral, twin sticks back here. The holes I cut, I gotta cover them up. I did a separate video on this trans plate cross member slash skid plate. I did a video on that, so by the time this video is out, it should be out. Don't mind my freaking booger welds, they're gonna hold, trust me. And yeah, so also another thing that I bought because I know I'm gonna need it, this super cool digital timing light off of Amazon. Innova is the brand. Once we can get it started and running on its own, then we can hook up the timing light and see what it's at. And then we got fluids. It's full of coolant, it's full of power steering fluid, it's full of oil. So we're ready to start this thing. We just have to get it to the point where we can start it. We can start it without the intercooler piping. It's not a big deal. We're not making any boost. She's just about ready to crank over. So I'm fired up. All right, let's see. There you go, she's idling. Holy shit. That's freaking loud. Okay, but it runs. Holy shit. Totally forgot to put that cap on, so we got to get that on. And that's running good enough to adjust the timing. I got to do a few more things and then I'll get back with you guys. We got the intercooler connected completely. We just used some spare pipe we had, and we got kind of lucky with that. We were able to get everything on. Probably not the best, but well, we're okay. We're doing good. So we're gonna let it idle. I'm gonna hook up my timing light because I know in the heat of the moment you're just running around trying to get everything figured out. Never used a timing light before, but I guess there's no better time than the present. So we might not even get to check timing right now. We might just have to do it when we get to our destination. As long as it runs and drives in the trailer, I'm more than happy to work on it out there. You know what I mean? All right, timing light's hooked up, says the battery's at 12.3. So I didn't even check to see if it's charging, so we'll know. We'll know if it's charging just by doing this. We don't even have to get out the voltmeter. Battery's connected. Let's breathe on the key. Yeah, we need our fuel pump. Sounds like it's got a misfire. Running. RPMs. No leaks, no fire. cylinders. Well, the 4runner is done, and it's been a while since, you know, I've actually made this video, but I just wanted to give a closer. We're gonna go look at the car, go over it a little bit, fire it up, and you know, I always hesitate on posting videos until the build is like done, because if I'm showing somebody how to do something, then I want to make sure my stuff is dialed. But it's pretty dialed. The 4runner is probably one of the most reliable vehicles I own right now, other than like the newer stuff, you know, like the stuff that came from the factory, that, you know. But I'm just going to pop the hood, go over it, show you a couple things that I had to do and a couple things that didn't end up working out. Also, in the next video, I'm going to be going over the twin transfer case setup, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But what I can do right now is pop the hood. So here's the 4runner. It's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty factory. Still got to get a couple parts for it. Regarding the ECU, it's actually under the carpet. It's looking good. I still have to wrap up the wiring for the air conditioning because I'm going to put AC in this thing. But as it sits right now, this sucker is running good. Now there's a few things I want to change, obviously. A few things. Oh shoot, she is dirty. You know, these polished valve covers, they don't stay pretty for long. It's kind of weird, but whatever. So everything's running good. I have everything plumbed up okay. I got to take this box. I'm gonna actually mount it under the bumper. I want it out of the bay. So a few problems that I had initially when I got this sucker running. I had a problem with my power steering line. That stuff I bought from Amazon. The PTFE line. So I went to a local guy who makes lines, and oh yeah, you can't really see it, but I went ahead and I had a crimped line made pretty much the same exact length and stuff like that. It loops around, but other than that, the power steering system is solid, no issues there. The fuel system is great, no issues there. As you guys can see, my fuel line doesn't touch, but it's very close. I actually bought a new badass radium fitting for that, so we're gonna throw that on maybe the next couple videos. Regarding these, I actually bought those badass press-in radium fittings too, so we're gonna run a catch can setup. Haven't had problems with any blow-by or anything, as you guys can see, but that's good. Battery is fine. I had to add an extra couple grounds because I don't know, it just wasn't really working right the way I had the harness, the grounding for the harness set up. But because I have one of the harness grounds going here and I have the other one going to the firewall, so it's really not like the most ideal setup. As for cooling, we went ahead and we had to add 2 fans over here because we still have the condenser. I stacked 2 6-inch fans right on top of each other because there wasn't any room for like a 10 or a 12-inch on the right side. And then this is the condenser fan on the left side. That wasn't cutting it, so we had to upgrade that. So what we ended up doing is we ended up throwing a small 10-inch fan in there. The only problem is it pushed the intercooler out so far. It used to sit nice and tucked under the grill. Now it kind of sits out kind of far. I can't really unlock my winch right now, as you can see, because it's supposed to go where the intercooler's at. But yeah, the winch is all set up, wired up, it's looking good. We're gonna need to, this is kind of sitting right on top of these wires. If this were to ever break and we have metal to metal contact, we are going to start shorting the battery out, so I do want to get to that. Yeah, also those 2 6-inch fans, they are on a temperature switch that I have a probe stabbed in the radiator, so you could turn those on pretty much, well, so you could turn these on pretty much by adjusting this dial. Freaking wires loose. That's obviously buy cheap Amazon shit. But yeah, I gotta work on that too. But other than that, with these 3 fans, this 1 10-inch and these 2 6-inches, we're probably pushing around, I don't know, 2,000 CFMs through this radiator, and it seems to cool just fine. With air conditioning, may not be enough, but hey, whatever. Let's just fire this thing up before we close out this video. The thing runs like a freaking dream. Put it in nooch. All right. cold starts are pretty good. I do still have the idle air control valve. So the idles are pretty good. As you can see, I have this fan on. I wired it to the AC switch. So if this switch light is green, fan's on. If it's off, the fan's off. So I just have it like that way, because if you're running air conditioning, you're gonna need the fan on anyways. And yeah, I don't know, that was just really easy. I was able to wire that up pretty quick. But as for the 4runner, the interior, she's looking pretty good. I've been working on changing some of the locks out. Got a big ass fire extinguisher just in case, you know the deal. Also put 2 freaking thumpers in this bitch. 2 thumpers, shout out Kuya. Just gave me them, you didn't really need them, so. Got 2 thumpers, this thing slaps. Gotta get one of those, but other than that, thing runs pretty good. Everything works, except for the air conditioning, but everything, and I mean everything else works. Oh, I blew up the front diff, so that doesn't work, but whatever. But this thing's a rig. I drive it pretty much every day. It's about 80, 90 degrees outside right now. Still drives fine. Doesn't overheat, nothing. But yeah, that's the overview of the 4runner. We're gonna make some more videos on it, but I just wanted to do an overview of everything that's going on. I know this video is kind of long, but hey, you know, sorry. I just wanted to put all the information in one video. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging on anything. Next video, we're gonna be doing the twin transfer case, so watch out for that. Anyways, just want to thank you guys for watching. This is 4runner from Salt Modified. I'm out.